Welcome everyone to Roll for Recipe, the series where the dice are the head chef. For those who are new here, my name is Kyle and this channel is dedicated to answering one question. Can we make a good recipe using random ingredients rolled by these dice? Time to find out. Let's roll for recipe. Beginning the rolls with a D10 for the restriction. 7 for restaurant roll, where we cook to one specific style of restaurant. But which style of restaurant? Let's roll a D6 to find out. 6 for fine dining, gotta get super fancy today. Some of these proteins might get interesting here, but let's roll a D8 and see what we get. That is 5 for tilapia. I love a good fancy fish meal, but tilapia is about as far from fine dining I think as you're gonna get in the fish world. It's definitely one of the cheaper cuts. I admittedly have not had tilapia in a long time, so I'm not sure exactly the flavor profile. I think it's a pretty mild fish. Either way, whitefish in general is pretty easy to build around, so let's see what else we get. Another one that could get interesting, D6 for carb. 5 for basmati rice. Well, rice and fish go together very well most of the time. They're a very common pairing around different parts of the world. For fine dining, I think we should be able to work with this pretty easily. We'll build a nice little mold of rice and then we can set the fish on top of that, and that can be kind of the base for the dish. A couple D12 to see what we season this with. 1 and 2, popcorn seasoning and cloves. Popcorn seasoning and clove right off the bat seem like pretty strange spices that don't have a lot of application. Popcorn seasoning, I mean, I have butter seasoning here, so it should actually work pretty well with any sauce we make. We do need a sauce component between the fish and the rice. And then clove, I think, is gonna be the same thing. I think if we use 1 or 2 extra ingredients to kind of build around this flavor profile, I don't think this should be too bad. Well, let's hope we roll something more normal here. 2d20 for the produce. 7 and 16 is fennel and asparagus. Fennel and asparagus both work pretty well in fine dining applications. They have a lot of versatility to them. For example, the fennel, you cut the bulb and you're able to use that as a puree. You're able to roast it and use it as part of the garnish. You can take the fronds off the top and use that as part of your flavoring profile. Asparagus can be used in a lot of different ways as well. You can grill it, you can roast it, you can puree it. So these both are very solid rolls here. The final ingredient, a D100 wild magic roll. 54 for potato chips. To be perfectly honest, the only thing I can think of with the potato chips is to crush them up and use them as like a coating on the fish. Doesn't sound super fine dining to me, but to be honest, I have seen weirder things on fine dining menus. So as long as we can spruce it up, I think we should be fine. Gonna need a few things to tie it together. 2d6 for extra ingredients. 3 plus 1 is 4 extra ingredients. So 4 ingredients feels a little bit rough, but in fine dining, there is this concept of try to use as few ingredients as possible and then just maximize technique, kind of maximize the flavor of each individual ingredient. So we're definitely gonna have a good test on doing that. As for the ingredients I chose, let's start off with the egg. I don't think there's another way to get the potato chips to actually stick to the fish here other than to use a binder, in which case the egg is gonna do that. For my other 3 ingredients here, my idea here is I wanna take the asparagus and the fennel and try to make some kind of puree or sauce out of them. So to do that, I'm gonna need a little bit of cream. That's gonna help me achieve a bit of a creamy texture to a whole sauce. For the lemon, we are drastically lacking any kind of acid in this dish so far. So lemon's gonna help us achieve that extra pop, that extra acid. And then cinnamon sticks, this is just gonna play off the cloves. I think putting the cinnamon stick and the clove into the cream and fusing it with those flavors, this is gonna be the best way to use the cloves and to kind of get a decent flavor going. So yeah, it's not much, but these are all our ingredients on top of what we rolled. As always, salt, oil, and water are free. And with all that, let's get to cooking. Very quick, simple mise en place today. The fennel is what we're gonna start with. And like I said in the intro, there are multiple ways that you can use fennel, and that's gonna really help us out here. First thing I'm gonna do is remove a bunch of these fronds and set them to the side. I'll be able to use all these later as a garnish. They have a nice flavor to them. All right, so what you're gonna wanna do is remove the top. You're gonna wanna remove this kind of outer layer here. And what you're left with is that beautiful fennel heart, which has a very, very strong anise smell. This outer layer part I like to keep as just part of a veggie stock. It adds a pretty unique flavor to your veggie stocks if you're into that. Now, what I really wanna do is have a couple pieces that I'm just gonna roast. So I'm gonna pull off a couple pieces here. And these couple pieces I'm gonna roast in the air fryer. We're gonna use these as a garnish. And then the rest of it, we're actually just gonna cut up really finely. We're gonna use this to make a puree. And now the tops themselves, I'm actually gonna save these and make a fennel stock with these. So I said stock is something I was kind of missing. We're actually gonna make a stock with it as well. Then we have quite a few heads of asparagus. asparagus here. For asparagus, some people like to just cut them, but if you just pull them with your hand, you actually snap them right about where the woody portion ends. And so then you're left with a top that you can use, and then the woody stem that you can use for your vegetable stock. I am going to cut these a little bit, not really. Just one quick cut. Again, I wanna make sure that these cook up pretty quickly in the puree liquid. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna take a few of these butts and I'm actually gonna use them in the fennel puree. So we're gonna make a fennel asparagus puree and a fennel asparagus stock. All right, that's all of our mise en place. It's all gonna go to making a puree, so let's get started on that. All right, so the easiest part of this recipe is gonna be to make the stock. We're just gonna take all these ends that we're not gonna need and we're gonna put them in a pot. Then we're just gonna fill the pot with water. And now we're just gonna bring this up to a boil and let it sit for probably like 30 minutes. It'll help infuse the flavor of the fennel and the asparagus in there into the water, give us a nice little vegetable broth. All right, the stock is done. I've set it to the side to let cool down, and we're going to put some cream into a pot here. Going to add a cinnamon stick. Should I add 2? I think 1 should be fine. And then a few cloves. You don't need too many of these. Their flavor is going to come out quite a bit. We have this set to a pretty low heat. I'm gonna turn it up just to get it up to temp real quick. All right, and while that cream is heating up, we're going to turn on our other pot. Let's get a little bit of oil in this pot. All right, it's starting to get warmed up a little bit. I'm gonna add this now. It's not gonna sizzle yet, but I don't want this to get up to so high a temp that it actually starts to brown and all that, because I wanna cook it more in the stock than anything else. You know what? Same thing with the asparagus. I'll add it now. I'm gonna put some salt in there, add a little bit of flavor. And then as this cooks, we're just gonna let this sit to the side, and it's gonna infuse the flavor of the clove and the cinnamon into that cream. Gonna add all our stock here, bring that up to temp. All right, this is looking nice and soft now, so I think we're gonna add the cream. Got my strainer here so that I don't get any of those cloves or cinnamon into the actual puree. We definitely do not want that. All right, this looks to be all up to temp, so we're gonna transfer this to a blender. All right, we got our Ninja blender here. Not sponsored, I just like Ninja blender. So what I'm gonna do is try to get just the solids in here first. And then a little bit of the liquid. And let's see what kind of consistency that gives me. So I don't know how well you guys can see in there, but that is about perfect. That's about like a thick sauce consistency. So I think I'm just gonna add some salt and lemon juice and call it a day. Small squeeze of that lemon juice. Nice little pinch of salt. And go for another 20, 30 seconds. Yeah, that is about the perfect consistency I wanted. So taste test. Time to make the basmati rice. As usual, you always want to make sure to rinse your rice until the water runs clear. See how it's kind of foggy? We're gonna rinse it until it runs clear. So some of you who have a rice cooker know this trick, but if you want to know how much water to put in your rice cooker rice, you just put your finger to where it lands right on top of the rice, so the fingertip sits on the rice, and then you're just gonna fill the water right up to the knuckle. As for why it works, I have no idea, it just does. And we're going to add plenty of salt. Now I'm just gonna put it in the rice cooker. All right, I have my 2 glass bowls set up here. Into one, I'm gonna crack an egg, and we're gonna salt that and whisk it. And into my other pan, we are going to put our potato chips. Crushed up first, of course. And we have our tilapia. I only wanna coat one side of this, so that's why I wanted to keep this kind of shallow. So we're just gonna let it sit in the egg wash real quick. And then into our breadcrumb. Make sure that that gets well coated. Could get better coated than that. The idea is to create one side that's kind of like a skin, so it's almost like a skin on fish. Our pan on the right here has the puree. I'm gonna keep it warm. I actually made this yesterday, so I didn't have to make it today. So it's been sitting in the fridge and it was a little bit cold. And the more I think about it, I am actually gonna add the popcorn seasoning to the puree. I was thinking of adding it to the rice, but I think I'm gonna add some to the puree and then add the puree to the rice. And again, popcorn seasoning is basically just salt and like dried butter, so this should work out fine. All right, pan should be heated up by now. In with the fish. I'm very curious how well this is actually gonna work. So as we can see that the white here is starting to come through. Once this is mostly cooked on the skin side down, or in this case, chip side down, then we'll be able to flip it and just kind of cook it for maybe like 20 seconds on the other side, and that should be good. All right, we're just about 80% of the way cooked, so I'm going to flip it, kiss it. Ooh, that looks nice actually. And I'm actually gonna take this off so that it doesn't overcook. And we're gonna get to plating. To begin with, we are going to spoon our puree onto the bottom. Gonna spread this out as evenly as I can. To the rice, I'm gonna add the last little bit of puree and mix that up. Should help make it very moldable. I'm not looking for a particular shape here. I'm just looking for it to kind of hold its shape as I put it on here. We're going to place our fish on top of that. Now for the garnish, I have a couple pieces of the roasted fennel. I have a couple pieces of asparagus that I'm gonna put to the sides here. Going to put bits of green with these fennel fronds everywhere. And we're gonna finish off with a little bit of lemon juice. And there we are, my best attempt at a fine dining plate. Honestly, I think all these components should work pretty well together. My only concern is just how impactful the flavor is all gonna be here. Guess it's time to find out. Let's get to the tasting. Remember to like and subscribe if you like this video and wanna see more. Had to wear a collared shirt for a fancy meal, of course. Try to get a bit of everything on here. Bon appetit. So one issue right off the bat, the roasted fennel on the side is not quite cooked all the way. So that one's on me. As a whole though, this is actually a really, really good dish. I'm kind of surprised at it. I've never done potato chip crust before, but it actually is really, really crispy on there. It's a little bit not so crispy now because it's been sitting a while, but when I first took it out, it was super, super crispy. The puree, the fennel, the asparagus, the lemon, the clove, all that actually is coming through more than I thought it would. And it's mixing really, really nice with the fish. I do think we could use a few more flavors here. I would have liked maybe some onions, some garlic, and like I said with the color, I would have liked maybe like a purple, red, orange, blue, some other kind of color besides green on here. But overall, I think flavor is fantastic for what we had to work with here. So for a score, like I said, technique and flavor all is pretty well there outside of a couple little things. This is a surprisingly cheap dish to make given how fancy and upscale it kind of feels. I mean, tilapia, like I said, probably one of the cheapest fish out there. And then with the rice, asparagus, fennel, nothing else here is really all that expensive. Complexity obviously is pretty high. It's a fine dining meal. Anything fine dining is gonna be fairly complex, a lot of different components coming together. But all in all, I think this one's a winner. So with all that said, I'm gonna give this one an 8.7 out of 10, and I'm gonna call it the Emerald Tide Tilapia. With a couple more ingredients and a couple little tweaks with the technical issues, I think this easily could have been in the 9s. Very, very surprised at how well this came out. As always, thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.